just a menace. Menace to sobriety.
That's one thing I've heard people say in recovery is a good thing about recovery is you get your emotions back, and a bad thing about recovery is you get your emotions back. Because it's like, you know, the reason why I drunk and used for so long is to blot all them out, you know, because I can't deal with my own head. So I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. Started going through the steps. I don't know whether you've done the steps yourself.
I haven't.
So got introduced to the steps and started going through it, but it was in like a booklet form instead of just going through the book. Started going through it all, mate, and I just identified with everything. Do you know what I mean? And I remember my first group session in there. There was the people were talking, and I was all like judgmental. You know what we're like. I was thinking like, he's a fucking heroin addict. I ain't that bad. You know, as you do when you're in the room, thinking, why is he looking at me? Or she's all right. Do you know what I mean? And all that. You do though.
Yeah, and you're just like you ain't in tune with it yet.
No.
Yeah.
And someone sat staying, and it was like, is there anything you want to say? And I was angry at that time. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I don't want to fucking say anything. Do you know what I mean? Fuck off like that. And I remember there was this old guy, I'm not saying old, he was probably like 65 alcoholic, he can't see, he goes, I think you're going to be sharing a room with me. I said, I ain't fucking sharing a room with you, you old cunt, like that.
Wow.
And he was like, what? And I was just like, fuck off away from it. I was so angry. So angry. And the only thing I said in there, I said to him, the only thing I feel right now is that there's no middle of the road. I'm either up here or I'm down there. And the council guy turned around and said, well, you're on the right place then, mate.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think from there on, listening to other people share, I just thought, these people have got something here. This is real. Do you know what I mean? A lot, obviously, people were using the God word and all that thing in there, and I was just like, I ain't fucking interested in that. You know, I'm not religious. But then it started to, it's a spiritual program. Yeah. Not a religious one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I haven't been put off by the 12-step program at all. It was intimidating for me. Yeah. Like I was a bit scared. You know, it's kind of like another layer of admitting like how bad your problem was, and I think I wanted to try and because I think that there's different levels to addiction, different levels to how bad you were. I mean. You know, I was having blowouts at the weekends that were affecting my whole life. Do you know, my whole week, and I was drinking a lot, but I was never like a daily user. So I think I felt a bit guilty about going to a 12-step program because I didn't think I was as bad as that. But after speaking to people like yourself, I think it's something I am going to look at just to learn. And I was also put off by the God thing, like you were. But I think that the way to get your head around that is to not look at it as like God, but to look at it as like you said, like a spiritual thing. You can just replace that word God with the universe or whatever you believe in.
It's a higher power of your own conception.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was one of the main things that when I started looking, because you look at the book and it was like, oh, you know, God, blah, blah. I was thinking like, I ain't religious. I don't want to know about this. Yeah. And then you start going through the booklets, listening to people talk about their own experiences. And I was like, fuck, I feel like that. Or I felt like that.
Yeah.
So how are they now like clean? You know, what have they done? And I remember the first chair that I heard in one of the meetings I went to there was a guy who actually was a scaffolder, and he said he'd done his story, and I was just bursting out in tears because I was like, that bloke has just pretty much shared my story, and he'd come out at the end of it, and I kind of had like a thing as well when I went in there because I was so young. I thought like, you know, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I felt the same. Yeah.
All I've ever done is drunk and used and had a good time, blah blah blah, but my head didn't go to the bad times. It went straight to the good times.
Yeah, that's the addict.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? So it was like, oh, you know, yeah, but it wasn't that bad or whatever. That's how I was feeling at that time.
It's scary, isn't it, that you're there learning about it and trying to convince yourself to go back already. Yeah, I get it.
Do you know what I mean? But luckily, I feel like because I was in the treatment centre, I was in there.
Yeah. It's the environment. It's your environment. That's the main thing.
I had to be taken out of society, man. And I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me was going in there and learning about myself. I feel like I really didn't know who I was. And that was the scariest part for me is when people, you know, ask, oh, you know, what do you like or blah, blah, blah. I just think like, I don't know. I don't really care. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird.
But that's not how to live life.
Menace to sobriety. Just a menace. Just